Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
So on today's show, ladies, we have Jacqueline Marshall. She is from Canada, and she shares so many great nuggets. Such a wonderful person who is really investing in her own way, in her own pace. What I think you'll get a lot out of this episode is that she's so pure and so authentic in sharing really her relationship to money, which really stems as a child and her background and how she was raised and how she's bringing that into fitting the goals that she has right now in investing, because those two things are important, relationship to money and what you're actually trying to achieve. So I think you'll get a lot from that particular conversation.
Yeah, and she shares her transition from being a dentist, dental hygiene, to become a real estate investor. She does a lot of this stuff herself. She lives inside the rehab. So pick her brain here in regards to the mindset that it takes to become a successful real estate on her own terms. And that's what we all are looking to do, create something that works for us. So this is a great episode that you can look at it, relate, pick some brain. She gives a great tip for understanding rehab projects and getting the best prices and building your team to succeed on your projects. Check it out.
Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investor Show. We have Jacqueline on this week with us. Jacqueline, Thank you so much for being with us and sharing yourself with all the wonderful women listening.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so thrilled to meet you ladies. You're such an inspiration.
Oh, you're sweet. And you're an inspiration. That's why we love doing this, because, it's about inspiring the women listening and in our community and globally, right? We have 42 countries of women listening now, right, Andressa?
That is right.
But it's also about inspiring all of us, because we all have something to give. We all have something to get. That's kind of what our philosophy always is. So welcome back, ladies. As we always do, we are just appreciative that you're on this journey with us, because we are learning and growing, Andressa and myself and all these wonderful women we have on our show. And the show's all about just, getting you to take action, right? So, and really being on the path of financially free and living a balanced life on your own terms, right? We always say.
Yeah.
So first thing we like to do is just kind of share a little bit of a tip, a strategy, a lesson, something that's coming up for all of us, me and Andressa, because there's multiple things on a daily basis.
What?
Right? We're learning and growing, and we're in a new year here. So Andressa, what is coming up for you this week?
Yeah. So before I talk about what's coming up, a lot of people just come to find out that we exist through our podcast. But I want to also share with you guys, we have a huge Facebook group community with very top-notch experienced women there. I use them as my soundboard. I have questions, I put it there. We are always learning something new. So it doesn't matter if you have 10 years of experience in an area in real estate. If you're evolving and growing, you're going to be facing different challenges. So use the Facebook community to get the information that you need. And we also have 30 plus meetups across the country and Canada. We're expanding a lot. All of them right now are online. Hopefully to 2021, we'll come back to in-person meetings. And Liz and I are super excited to do our tour, where we go to one place to another. And also our membership. Our Strive membership, which includes mentorship and accountability, we open the doors again in June. But until then, if you are looking for a roadmap, we have SOAR is always available there with a ton of content, both archive content that we prepared for you to really focus on taking action, right? We hear a lot of I'm learning this, I'm reading books, listen to podcasts, going to a lot of different virtual conferences. Knowledge is good, is always good. Action is even better, right? So that's what we are all about. So today I'm going to talk about something that I heard the first time this week. Alicia St. Germain, she's our pod leader. And in one of our meetings among ourselves, she mentioned about us owning our story. And she talked about the importance of sharing our scars and not our wounds. And I was like, well, talk more about it, right? You're like, tell me more about it. Because when we go through such a difficult situation and we start tearing up, we barely can talk about it, it means that it's still open. It's still an open wound there, right? So it's not gonna bring much inspiration to other people. People are gonna feel very sorry about what's going on with you, and the energy is not there. However, after that, after you really got through it and you learn your lesson, and that propelled you to something, because it's always a blessing at the end of the day, right? And that is your scar. And your scar, it is inspiring. It is totally inspiring. And so I encourage all the women that are listening, right, to look at your scars. If it's still a wound, take time to heal. Take time. And I remember, Liz knows this, when I went through my divorce, it took time to heal. It took time until I was able to really speak about it, and the importance of me living my true self and really propelled to everything that happened after that. So I encourage you guys to talk about your scars, own who you are, honor your story, because that will also inspire other women out there.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. We all need to do that more, right? Sometimes it's hard, right, to talk about those things, but that's a really good perspective, because if you're talking at more from a, hey, this is what I've learned, versus, hey, I can't even get through the sentence, those are two different, and sometimes you have to be in both places, but yeah, how do you approach that? How do you share it? So great suggestions. So without further ado, Jacqueline, thank you again for being on our show. It is just such a honor for us to be able to, to open up our world and the women listening's world with these stories of real women doing this work every day to not just inspire, but to actually share some tips and strategies for becoming, financially free and becoming a more effective real estate investor. So we always like to share and really ask the question as we kick things off: what propelled you to get involved in real estate investing?
I got on this path and I didn't even know I was on this path. And I was probably doing this for a couple of years and didn't even realize it. And how that makes sense is because I had gotten out of a long-term relationship. We didn't live together, but he lived down the road from where I lived. And there was no chance of reconciliation. And I wanted to leave the area because he lived down the road. It made no sense to stay in the area anymore. So I put my house up for sale and it didn't sell. No matter what I did, I dropped the price. I even dropped the price by $80,000. It still did not sell. And I look back on it now. This was like some years ago. This was about 6 years ago. And I look back on it now, then it didn't make sense why it wasn't selling. But you look at it now and you're just like, faith, God, someone had something else planned for me, something because I wasn't even thinking, I didn't even know about real estate investing. So the house didn't sell. I got very frustrated. I just wanted to put some physical space between me and the person I was no longer with. So I called my agent and said, I'm going to buy another house. I'm going to rent this house out. I'm going to buy another one in another community, which is about a half hour away. So he said, okay, sure. So I, rented it out, had great experience with those tenants. A year later, the new house I was living in, I thought, well, I'm having a great experience. Why don't I rent this house out now and go buy another one? So now I bought my third one. And so with the third one, I lived in it for a while, and I thought it had an in-law suite or an income suite as well. And I didn't enjoy living with somebody in the same building as me. And so I called my agent again. I'm going to rent out the main floor here and I'm going to go buy another house. And he's like, okay. And so I didn't know anything about strategies, but I was working as a dental hygienist at the time, which is good money. and full-time 12-hour shifts. And I mean, 3 years into that career, 5 years, I just was not enjoying it as much as I wanted to. But here I was using my salary and income and all my savings to buy these houses. And then I thought, well, I'm going to start having the rent, because I did have good passive income from each one. The rent was more than covering the mortgage, the property taxes, the insurance. I still had some left over. So I started dialing back on the hygiene job and not doing 5 days of 12-hour shifts. I dialed it back to 3. And doing every second Saturday with the office I was working in. And then so I was on my 4th house now that I owned. And then I thought, with each house, I was doing cosmetic things, to clean it up, maybe painting in a neutral color instead of purple, red, and orange, which is how I bought them.
I love those. I was like, do people do they sleep with like sunglasses? Because sometimes it's so bright.
Yeah. I mean, each house was a fixer upper, each one was a fixer upper. It needed some love, it needed some lipstick. And so I guess one of my strategies too, I'm finding out, is that I had a value add strategy and also buying lipstick, houses. And then it just snowballed. And I was like, well, okay, I was up to 6 rental houses now. And, or I had 5 and the one I was living in. And I thought, well, I want to start flipping. And so I rented that house out, bought another one. So that left me with 6 income rentals, single family homes, except for the one duplex. And started flipping. And I started off very small. It was just lipstick houses, because I went in with it doing all the work myself. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was crazy enough to take it on. And I was just really motivated by the financial freedom, the creativity that came with it. I was able to leave hygiene. I was able to be my own boss. I didn't have to tell anyone, hey, I'm going to the bathroom. I know it's not in my allotted half hour, but sorry, I need to go. So just being able to leave all of that behind, I saw the potential, and I was excited. And I was like a dog with a bone in its mouth. I was just not going to let this go. And I was going to keep growing and going with it. And there was a lot of learning curves. There was a lot of pain at the beginning, like just learning, frustration, but I stayed with it. I stayed with it. And here I am now 3 years in of flipping houses, and I took the momentum. So I went from lipstick flips to what I'm currently working on, which are houses that they need to be rewired. They might need plumbing. I might have to knock down whole walls and start from the studs again. But if I had started with that kind of flip, I would have thrown in the hammer like 3 years ago. So it's important, I think, for anyone considering this. If you're going to do the work yourself and you don't have any skills, start off with a lipstick flip, build on that experience and knowledge, and keep going with it.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because a lot of people that are interested in investing in real estate and have a full-time job, their biggest question is, how the hell I'm going to add real estate to my current situation? Because they're thinking, okay, I can't work, more than what I'm doing right now. And I like what you have done, because based on your situation, you start buying lipstick houses, right? Let's call them lipstick houses. Houses. Yeah. And then the other approach was, how can I continue doing this and reduce my hours? So for those of you that are listening, there is a transition period. And sometimes we get so caught into like, oh, I am like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years into this, and I just got like one property. Well, you have been working in different areas. So when you are planning your transition to real estate, like use Jacqueline as an example of like planning strategically and doing a transition period instead of just like, let me quit my job tomorrow and hope that this work. So I read
And I don't ever recommend that. It's very intense, right? You know, and having that transition plan is much smarter.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't take it as a race either. I've noticed some people, now that I've discovered this platform, you know, here, some people, they really set out with like, oh, I'm going to acquire this in this year. I didn't start off with that mindset or goal in mind. It wasn't a race for me. I went at my own pace. I stayed true to my budget, my skill set, my DIY skill set that I was bringing into it. And I just stayed true to it. I took a good inventory of what I was bringing into this to make this successful. And if I found that a problem or if there was a deficiency with how I wasn't able to renovate something or budget or finance, then I learned how to bridge that gap and take care of that deficiency so that I didn't carry it into the next one, into the next acquisition. So that mitigated any failures or upsets or frustrations or headaches or pitfalls. So yeah, I just took a good inventory of everything.
Yeah. And you're never going to know everything, right? So
No,
there's just it's not even possible. But yet a lot of women especially really have that need to not jump into anything that's related to construction until they, right, fill in the blank. So for you went from doing simple, like, you know, lipstick flips, if you will, to then really like rewiring homes.
Yeah.
What did you put in place from a knowledge perspective, educational perspective? Like, what did you actually do to bridge that gap?
For me, my comfort zone from the very first one, like the flip that I did, how I define it as a lipstick was like, it was a home that it was just gorgeous. It was gorgeous and it was beautiful in the day. But when I bought it, it had good bones. The electrical was done. It didn't need windows. It didn't need a roof. But the 30-year-old orange carpet that was in there, that the lady, God love her, she passed away. She had 7 cats. And you know, so, you know, myself physically, I knew I can rip out this carpet. I can paint these walls. I can do the flooring. I can exchange and update the light fixtures. And then I put my own furniture into it and it sold like a hotcake. So it didn't require me hiring these people to do things that I legally can't do. And so as I bought the next one, it had, it was cosmetic or a lipstick flip, but it also had things that maybe some DIYs where I had to do research. And so I spend a lot of time, you know, YouTubing, learning how to do this. And I stayed with things that I was legally allowed to do. And I always sourced out like and asked people, is this code? Is this code? Is this code? I'm going to get a t-shirt that says that. Got code?
Is this code?
Got code. I'm a stickler for the rules and doing things on top of the table and things like that. And just confidence, you know, just confidence in my budget from each one. Like when I started out, I had a reno budget of $10,000 and I stuck with that. I didn't go to a penny over for the first 3 and I stayed true to that. And then it grew to $20,000 and now my budget is $30,000, but I've never spent $30,000. Haven't spent all my whole budget yet. But just as you go and you find out, take on a house that you know is going to need new windows, because I went from $10,000 to $15,000 or $20,000 budget, and I knew I had the money to hire the right people to do that and do it well. So, because that's important to me too. When somebody comes in, I want the work done well. So I'm not going to get up on.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you know, when I started off, I didn't buy a house that required a roof because that was not in my budget, but now I do, but I'm not going to take that on. I'm not going to get up and do any kind of roofing. I'm more than happy to hire people to do that. So
where are the properties located, Jacqueline?
Well, I'm in Ontario, Canada, Southern Ontario. And I started off in the Niagara Falls area, St. Catharines and Font Hill area, the little tri-city there. And when I bought a house, my budget was $180,000. I was not going to go over $180,000. That was it. I stayed true to that. But after several years of doing that in that area, I went from I'm the only offer on this house to I'm competing to 6 offers now. I'm competing with 10 offers. So the landscape changed in that area for me, and I refused to go over $180,000. So I typed in on Realtor and I said, Ontario, $180,000. Where can I go to buy something for $180,000? And so one of the areas that came up was Windsor and Sarnia and a few other places. But after a little bit of demographic work and everything, I chose Windsor. So I've been there now going on almost 2 years. And I've had no problem buying a home for $160,000, $165,000, and then reselling them for $280,000 to $300,000.
You know, I am just like so jealous of you. I might move to Canada because I love those numbers, like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to renovate a house. A house is $180,000. Over here in Philadelphia, like I'm gonna check out a property this afternoon, and it's a dump, and it's $200,000.
Yep.
That's just it. So, Jesus. So for all the people that are listening to you,
don't come to Canada. Don't
competition there. So one of the, construction is always like a big thing. And women, as Liz was saying, some people say, oh, I will not jump in or do anything until I know everything. It's like, okay, so you're never going to jump in because, you learn something new every single time. Yep. But one of the things that they're very concerned when they are looking for their first property, right? They're walking there, and it is the estimating of cost. And I know that in your location, it's got to be different than mine. And but what are the tips that you can give to women, considering that, certain areas it's tile, other areas is more carpet, other areas is just hardwood floors. That will change. But when for those ladies that are starting out, and sometimes the general contractors don't want to come right away to see 5 houses, right? It's just not going to happen. What are the tips that you can give them to estimate the construction cost?
So for things where I had to hire people to do that, like electrical and plumbing or a roof, when I got my home, the first week, I know what day I'm closing. I know what day I'm getting the keys, and I'm going to have access to the interior. So before closing day, I've already lined up 5 people to come in and give me a quote on the work that I need done. So when I went to Windsor, I had to start all over again. I already had my go-to people in the Niagara area. But Niagara and Windsor are 5-hour gaps. So I had to find new people down in Windsor. So my first one down there, I didn't have much luck doing it that way for me. I had one guy come in and give me a quote on electrical, because the house had knob and tool. So the whole house needed. So that's a very large electrical task. And the way he was talking, I was like, it prompted me to say, are you a licensed electrician? And he said, no, but I have a friend who is, and I think he could jump in and help me. And I'm like, no. For legal reasons, my insurance policy, I have to prove that the people I hire to do this, I have to prove and show to my insurance company that I'm using licensed, bondable people for these things to protect myself. So I said, I don't understand why you're here. So then by chance, I was at Home Depot. And I happened to mention it to the salesperson. And he's like, well, have you ever used our referral program? And I said, no, did not know you had that. So he explained to me what it was. And so it's a program where licensed contractors give Home Depot their contact, and Home Depot does all the vetting. They do criminal background checks. They confirm whether the person is actually licensed and bondable and all of these things. So then I went and I said, I need an electrician. So they were like, okay, leave it with us. And they set it up so that 3 people licensed now coming from Home Depot, the referral program, they contacted me. They came in. I picked one. I'm still using the one that I found 2 years ago because I just love him and his work and his price. And from him, I know he knows other people in the trades. And I liked him. I trusted his work. I trusted his work ethic, his communication. So I know he was going to gravitate and refer people to me that he had respect for. And so it just piggybacked off of that. And I've had really great success with that. He referred a plumber to me, a general contractor to do things that I just physically cannot do. And I've used the same people over the past 2 years now for where I need electrical or roofing. And it was all based off of that referral program at Home Depot. So yeah, that was a godsend finding that. That was really helpful.
Yeah, love that. And, I think you're making a really good point, especially when it comes to contractors. Them being like rock stars, they know they're going to, like you said, you like their integrity, you like their quality of work, you like their prices too, right? Because that's important, because you can get somebody who's amazing, but also like 4 times the budget too, right?
Yep.
That's not hard to find sometimes, but to be able then to say, so ladies listening, if you find one good contractor, you can have access to others too. So it's not like you have to find 10, but if you find one, you might have access to others. And it's always moving and fluid. When you look at new areas, you don't have local contacts there yet, but the strategies, like to your point, and you got that one in. That's a great suggestion. I'm not familiar with that. I didn't even know Home Depot did that. I wonder if they do that in the States. It's a really good suggestion.
I'm sure they do. I mean, you have a Home Depot down there. Yeah.
Or a referral program in general, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier too about the challenges and some heartaches. And, we learn through our successes, but we learn so much more, right? Through our challenges in a lot of ways. And I know that, especially just speaking personally. So what for you, either as early on or now, or even as you transition, what were some of those biggest challenges that you faced, and how did you move through those?
Construction wise?
Anyway, yeah, in general too. Yeah.
I mean, throughout all the projects, I'm there in the house. I live in the houses that I flip. It doesn't make sense. And some people just call me crazy. They're just like, well, why do you live in this? But financially, it doesn't make sense for me to have this house that I'm paying insurance on, that I'm paying utilities on. I'm here like maybe 10 to 14 hours a day. It didn't make sense for me to go, okay, hold a house over here and be paying utilities on this house when I'm just going to shower and sleep for a few hours. It's better financially for me to have that rented. So my strategy was, every time I bought something, I cleaned up one room and made sure that it got painted. I put the flooring in right away. I got rid of the disgusting light fixtures. And then I would put my mattress in there, and I have a little dresser, and I have tubs for my clean clothes, my clean towels, and very basic. It's almost back to my first year of university, sleeping on a futon on the floor. But and then it just made more financial sense to me. It didn't make sense to hold on to a house just to go sleep there for a few hours a day. And it's better off me renting that. So, and I'm not that much of a princess. So it was like, it just helped with my budget, and I'm very debt adverse. So anything that kept more money in my pocket and made all of this very feasible for me. Like I said, I stayed with cheap houses. One house I bought was $100,000. It had a $10,000 reno budget. I didn't have a penny more. And that's what I had in my savings. So that's what I worked with. And I took on, and I had the willingness to do the work myself. So that's what made this doable for me, and grow it and get into more complex things. But some of the things, it gets very lonely. It gets very frustrating because I'm in the house by myself. And I'll run into something. It's like, oh my gosh, a second set of hands would be really nice right now, or to bounce ideas off. Like, how do I approach this? Like, do you have any ideas? So there's some limitations there. And so it might put a hold on something, because now I've got to go and YouTube for a couple of hours, or run to Home Depot or Lowe's and ask someone on the floor, like, hey, this is my problem. Here's the picture. What do you think? How can I handle this? So.
Yeah. Well, now you have us. and you can post it on our Facebook community and get all the answers there.
Yeah.
Like, I love when people just jump in and all the comments are coming and they're like, oh, I also went through the same thing. Here's what I did. This is how it looks like. So one thing that I always like to mention is that, you know, there's a lot of people talking about real estate, right? Especially like when things get really tough and there are different gurus promising different things. I'm not saying that it's good or bad. It's really depending on what people really do with what was being offered. But what I don't know how to say this in a nicer way, but people want to be in real estate a lot, but they don't have the guts that it takes to continue in making it successful. You know, either you pay your duties now or later. Believe me, I've been to basements where, you know, when you go down and you gotta like crawl your space, like crawl among all the like the webs. And the smell.
Don't forget the smell. Don't forget the smell.
Right? The smell of it. There's one time that I got in and I was like, I can't. At that time, we were not wearing masks, right? So I was like, I just can't. There was something there that really triggers my stomach. And I was like, I really need to get out and like quick and now. And I couldn't go back until the demo guys really took everything out. And I was like, take like everything out.
I have a trick for that.
You do? Oh.
Yeah. So when I was,
go ahead.
When I was a hygienist, I hate to say it, but some people, I mean, you have a mask on, obviously, when you, when you're working on a patient, but some people have very bad perio odor. So, but you have no choice. This is your patient. You're assigned to them. They're assigned to you. You have to complete that. So a trick that I got was I put Vicks right here and all over the inside of my mask. So, and it eliminates the odor or really makes it workable.
I'm going to carry Vicks on my
I'm telling you,
bag.
it is. I can't, yes. So there are 2 houses that I have worked on or purchased where the first week, yes, the smell is just excruciating. It's nauseating. And so I was like, you know what? This worked for me when I was in the chair. So I put Vicks on, put a mask on until everything got eliminated, or I eliminated everything that was contributing to the odor. So Vicks and a mask.
That's awesome. So, you know, it takes a lot, right? We also see the benefits of real estate investing, like beautiful houses, the cash flow every single month. But you've got to understand the business will train you to see. You got to have a thick skin, you know, with tenants, with houses, with dealing with people. You are dealing with people across the board. This is a people business that have properties and build attached to it. But this is a people business from the time that your lender, your partners, the people that you're buying the house from, the people that you're selling the house to, all around is a people business. That's what I'm going to say. My question to you, Jacqueline, is about the mindset, right? Because you're very determined. You live in the houses, you've been doing your transitions. Where did you get that from? And if you have any recommendations for women that are looking to do the same, they like DIY and they would like to do the same. So the mindset itself, what are your top 3 or 5, whatever you want to give strategies?
I mean, I was brought up by a single mom, you know, my sister and I'm the oldest, and, you know, she cleaned houses for a living, but we had a good life. You know, there was always food on the table. We always had a clean, warm place to stay. She never got the luxury of owning a home. We always rented. But that woman taught me some very good financial, sound advice that I carried into obviously my teenage years and my adult life. And she knew how to stretch a penny 10 ways. And some of the things, and when you're a single mom, cleaning houses for a living and getting no help from the biological father, my father, you make do, you make it happen. There's no excuses. And I got to enjoy some very, very nice things. And I could see from my mom that if you have good saving habits and you don't buy what you don't need, like her thing to me was, when I was a teenager, don't go to the mall, because if you don't see it, you won't want it. And it is true. And so when I entered university, I worked 3 jobs at any given time to go through that, because I didn't have any financial help from her. But when I graduated from university, I had no debt either. So I have a very strong work ethic. I'm very driven. I have a lot of energy. I've never been blocked with, I can't do this. This isn't possible. If something comes up like a problem, I never focus on the problem. I'm well aware, I'm well versed on what the problem is. I put my energy, my time, my emotion into the solution. I want to be as proactive, getting out of this problem, this situation as quickly as possible. Let's expedite this, and let's not talk about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. And I focus on that. And I brought that into with my DIY as well. Okay, this is the solution. I can sit here and cry about it all day and wait for someone. Maybe somebody will materialize on the door and offer to do this, but I have to be proactive and not focus and put too much energy crying about the problem and getting upset or frustrated. Let's get past that. Let's focus on the solution. And I've always been like that, and just great spending habits. And yeah, I'm just a very positive person. I mean, I get down and I cry like everybody else. But yeah, I'm not blocked by, this isn't doable. This isn't, impossible. Like, yeah, if I want it, then, I can get this. I can do this. Why not? And I've proven that with one thing. I've put one situation or another, even outside of real estate, it's doable. You can do this. Yeah.
I love that. And it's like, we hear that all the time, focus on the solution, but not the problem, right? I mean, I don't think anyone listening would be like, I've never heard that before, right? However, it's like literally one of the hardest things really to actually do and implement, right?
Yep.
And I've found over the years too, to your point, it's a habit. So if you develop the habit and it takes you, say, 10 minutes to get upset about something, then give yourself like your little pity party, but time it. And I've heard that as a really great strategy for people who like to keep talking about something. Because, sometimes we keep talking about something if we haven't solved it, or if we haven't gotten the support, or whatever, fill in the blank. But it doesn't serve us to talk about something all day, really, or anyone for that matter. So I found it like, if you're not focused on the solution, then go on and focus on the problem, but do it for a short time, really short time. So give yourself grace to do that, get it out of your system, have your little pity party, run around the house, do whatever you want to do, like act like a 5-year-old, whatever works for you, but at least release it and then move on to the solution. Because I feel like we hear that and people are like, I gotta focus on the solution, but they keep thinking about the problem. They keep having their pity party. They don't actually allow themselves to feel that frustration, get to the emotion, and then move on, because it's like it repeats itself, if you will. I'm not talking about anything I don't know about, because I'm speaking very personally here. I give myself some space. Like, I'm frustrated about this. Okay, now Liz, I know theoretically and logically I now need to focus on the solution. Let's go and do that. It
can be hard. Yeah,
it can be hard, but give yourself some grace. Or literally sometimes if I feel like I'm going on and on, I time myself and I give myself some time to be frustrated. And that's okay. And that's not only okay, I think it's healthy, as long as it doesn't take over and you don't stay there, because that's the problem. It's when you stay there, and that's why we're so passionate about the community we're building, right? Is that you're not alone. You're not the first person to get ripped off by your contractor. You're not the first person for, any of this stuff to happen, So it's like, how do you get the support? Don't just stay in your own head. That's
what I enjoy about all of this, because like one of the hardest things too is like, I'm in these houses. I have no, like no TV. I'm tired. I'm there by myself. And when I went to Windsor, I had no girlfriends down there. So I couldn't even pop out for a coffee or go for a walk and have some fresh air with somebody like a girlfriend, which I have back in Niagara Falls and that community. So yeah, it got really hard down there getting, the first year I was down there. And so when I bought this current house that I bought, because I mean, we had a 6-month grace there because of COVID, I had to come home in lockdown here, and tenants were not allowing me to come into the houses. So I was kind of blocked that way to not get my next acquisition, but I got it in October finally. And, but I said to her when we were starting to look at houses, I said, I've got an IG account. I've been discovering all these people. I'm so excited, like I'm finding other women who do what I do. I said, This is so encouraging, and it's really boosted my morale. I don't feel lonely. And that's where she gave me the idea. She's like, you found your people. And I'm like, yes, I found my people finally. So so it's helped because I'm down there, and then I'm able to talk and share my experience and hear other people's, through DMs, like other women who are doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And, just being egged on or rallied or being each other's cheerleaders, it's just so nice. And it's helped with the lack of, companionship down there and just everything. So it's helped.
You need it all throughout the journey, right? It's just we always say it's like a journey. It's not like a destination, mm-hmm. And so it's, you kind of need it wherever you are, whatever you're up to. Right. Mm-hmm. Jacqueline, you've been amazing. We really appreciate all the good little tips and strategies, and love your mindset. Where can the ladies listening learn more about you and follow you so they can get connected to you?
Instagram, BayWap Design. Yep.
Awesome. And all this information you guys can find on our show notes. Now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 questions. And the first one, Jacqueline, is what's the most transformational book you have ever read?
That's a hard one because, again, it's only been the past couple of months that I've been coming across this kind of material. I did pick up a few books, but they are more tax books, real estate tax books. I bought the Only Woman in the Room. That was the first one I've read in its entirety. Over Christmas, I did get some Christmas gifts that I wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I would love to have this. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I've been seeing a lot of people drop the name of that one. So I got that as a gift. So I'm actually, when I get off talking with you guys, I'm getting in my truck and heading to Windsor because I'm home right now at my home base at my boyfriend's house. And so when I get there, those books are coming with me, and I'm going to start reading them. And, when I get down there, so
that's awesome.
I'll be there for it'll be 3 weeks before I come back here. So I'm going to be like that, but I'm going to start off with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't think it's real estate related, but I read a book called Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. Mm-hmm. Gary V. Yeah. And I loved it. I loved it. I love that. I love that book. I got to read it 2 or 3 more times to really absorb what it's all
everything.
Saying. But so
awesome. Yeah. The second question is, what's the most powerful routine that you do to create a financially free and balanced life?
Well, like I said, I started on this path not really realizing I had gotten on it and realizing the financial freedom and the potential. The thought of ever walking away from hygiene was not even on my radar when I started going down this path. But after a couple of rentals and having some conversations with my real estate agent, who is phenomenal and has been a great resource for me, I remember sitting down at the table with him and saying, what other, options are there, how to invest in real estate? Like, how do you go about this? Like what? And he gave me some ideas. It planted a seed, but I never acted upon it until a couple of years later. And I don't know.
Is there anything that you do nowadays that you're like, this is like my routine?
My daily routine is basically construction, but what's helped with it too, like I've built my team to incorporate a really phenomenal insurance person, and I'm very transparent with them about what my intention is with a property. I've seen some people not be transparent to that, and I don't want to open myself to a situation where it's not legal. So with my insurance company, I have someone who specializes and is very knowledgeable in the rentals and things like that. I think that's very important. Also, with my accountant, I've switched that now. That's so important, and staying on touch with that, but not putting everything in their hands. I've also liked to read the books. Like I said, I got some real estate tax books for real estate. So I like to have a working knowledge. So when they start talking to me, I'm just kind of like going cross-eyed, because I'm not good with all of that. I'll be like, what?
Absolutely.
So,
I'm actually reading. He arrived this week, and I'm reading this book from Amanda. And we're going to be interviewing Amanda pretty soon, so we can ask all our tax questions to her.
I know that's the ugly side of it all. Like, you can't ignore the taxes and the insurance and like that. Those are big components of all of this. You can't procrastinate or ignore what you need to know about that, because
that's correct.
You're opening up a can of worms there if you ignore it.
That's right. And the last question is, which woman, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
I don't know if they've inspired me, but there are certainly people that, wow, I would love to sit down and pick your brain. And I know it's going to sound really weird, but Dr. Ruth. She is literally 4 or 5, I think. And I saw a documentary on her, and her story is she started off in Germany through the war, and how that she was transplanted and taken away from her family, brought to Switzerland, and she wanted to continue her education. And literally, in the tunnels of London and in Switzerland, where they got foster cared, literally she continued and finished her high school and everything like that by a candlelight. She persevered through that, and then she took that and came to the States and got her master's and all of this, and she grew, and she didn't let what happened to her back then stop her from growing and moving forward, and failed marriages and stuff like that. But just how she went about continuing her education, even though she was in a foster care during the war, is just phenomenal. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Yeah. I think she's just phenomenal.
That's awesome. And there's so many women, right, in our everyday world that inspire us. So we just we can be inspired in the smallest ways. So that's awesome. Jacqueline, thank you so much for being on our show. Thank you for sharing all your tips and just sharing yourself very authentically. We really appreciate you and appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.